look, President Musk this morning made it clear with all his vast government experience, which is basically he became rich on the federal government, that he doesn't want Republicans to pass this. And seemingly Vice President Trump kind of backed him up then at that point. And what it says about the politics is this is going to be a messy 4 years. But look, President Musk this morning made it clear.
Connolly, who is 70. And was just diagnosed with esophageal cancer, beat back a challenge from 35-year-old progressive Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez amid calls for a new generation of leadership in the Democratic Party. As Democrat Don Bayer of Virginia, a Connolly ally, put it, quote, "Jerry's a young 74, cancer notwithstanding." Now, to be clear, I'm sure Jerry Connolly will do a fine job as the ranking Democrat on oversight. I understand his colleagues respect him. I understand the way seniority works in Congress, which has been there forever. Often there's a reason for it. You learn a lot over the years. But in light of everything that has happened over the past decade, it does feel like Democrats still have not learned a pretty important lesson here. Back in 2013, when some liberals called for the retirement of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, then President Barack Obama invited Ginsburg, at the time an 80-year-old cancer survivor, to a now infamous lunch meeting. The president gently implied that it was time for her to pass the torch before the 2014 midterms, when Democrats were expected to lose the Senate, making it impossible to replace her with another ideological liberal on the court. Ginsburg refused to step aside.
You're 83. You're the oldest serving member on the Supreme Court. How long do you think you can do this?
At my age, you have to take it year by year. I know I'm okay this year. What will be next year? I'm hopeful, however, because my most senior colleague, the one who most recently retired, Justice John Paul Stevens, stepped down at age 90. So I have a way to go.
Republicans retook the Senate in 2014, and they held it until 2021. Ruth Bader Ginsburg died in September 2020 at the age of 87, 3 years after that interview and 7 years after her meeting with Obama. Donald Trump and the Republican Senate, just a few months before the election, replaced her with conservative Justice Amy Coney Barrett, further cementing conservative control of the court for generations to come and facilitating the end of Roe v. Wade. You would think that would have been enough for Democrats to start taking the age issue seriously, but it was not. In April of last year, President Joe Biden announced he was running for re-election, even though he was the oldest man to ever serve as president and was also clearly having a hard time communicating at the level necessary to occupy the bully pulpit. It wasn't until over a year later, when Biden gave a cataclysmic performance in his first debate with Donald Trump, that the Democrats changed course. After a wrenching, excruciating process just months out from the election, Biden, again, to his credit, finally stepped aside under enormous pressure. But he clearly didn't do so under the conditions, we can say in retrospect, that would have been best for Democrats to run a winning campaign. You would think that would have been enough for Democrats to start taking the age issue seriously. But it was not. Jerry Connolly won that vote today. And he did so thanks in part to former Speaker Nancy Pelosi whipping votes for him. Now, again, to her credit, enormous credit, Pelosi did choose to step aside and relinquish her job as House Minority Leader to a new generation of leadership. She also played an enormous role in the successful effort to push Joe Biden to step aside this summer, which was very hard to do and I think the right thing to do. But now Pelosi whipped votes to make sure that Connolly got the oversight job over the young star in the party, even as the 84-year-old Pelosi is recovering from hip surgery after suffering a fall. It feels like a moment of genuine madness. Connolly, who is 74,
Listen, this guy got it spot on MSNBC. Welcome to Let It Be Known. Thanks for joining us this morning. They don't learn. They don't learn. And he really broke it down because we know, as he mentioned, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that situation led to what we see now on the Supreme Court. And so this stubbornness, this idea that these old folks got to hold on to power. And when we say old folks, we're not talking about folks in their 60s or 70s. I mean, Nancy Pelosi is 84. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was pushing 90. And Joe Biden, um, yeah, he got out of the race. He got out of the race and left the vice president with basically, 30 seconds to campaign for all intent and purposes. When you and campaign time, um, so it's the same old with those guys. I saw a exclusive story. I haven't really read it yet. Jaron at the Grio wrote that the Democrats are plotting a new course, and there's he has some exclusive details. Harris campaign alums is the headline. Launch firm to fix democratic mistakes from 2024 and lead a quote new generation of operatives. So it's always worth the read when Jaron is putting that together. But again, but it's the same old people. Nobody wants to hear from them. Nobody really wants to hear from them. Um, it's a losing team. It's a losing team. And when you continue to do loser stuff like this, you know, old man who has had some health challenges, and Nancy Pelosi whips the votes for him over AOC. It's like, are you kidding me? Mike V says, people can be so selfish in politics to claim you want the best for your country only to do the complete opposite. I am 1000% convinced that you really need to go through every politician with a fine tooth comb. You have to go through the whole country with a fine tooth comb to find a politician who really, really cares about their constituency, cares about people. You really do.
Flip the tables. All right, let's unflip this table, sis. Kamala Harris represented the generational change that base Democratic voters demanded. And yet, when you go to the House and Senate, no generational change. Does that make sense to you?
It absolutely does not make sense. And to be honest, it's part of, and I love the lead in with her remarks about staying in the fight and taking care of
We could have had
ourselves.
a baddie, but we decided to have an oldie.
Oh, I think about that all the time. I play that Lizzo song in my head every time I think about her. But like, she was literally a disruptor. But if we think about it, Barack Obama was a disruptor,
Yes, he was.
right? Folks didn't want him to run for president when he decided to. And look at the historic presidency that we had. And so I actually believe that Democrats have been talking about, I haven't been on TV because I've been taking care of myself, but I have been thinking about the conversation about what happened in 2024. Democrats are having the wrong post-election analysis.
Agreed.
And it's not to double down on the older white leadership. It is actually to shore up our base. We only win with young people, people of color, women. Why not have them in leadership? Why not have an AOC and a Jasmine Crockett who, quite frankly, are never scared
Never.
of
And
Donald
can
Trump or
communicate
Republicans?
with regular people about
Absolutely.
regular things. I mean, AOC and Jasmine.
Exactly what I've been saying. Exactly what I've been saying. Orange says it's time for the Democrats to face reality. The old guard needs to sit down. Nancy is still calling the shots. Exactly. And Trixie says, I'm keeping it honest. Democrats and Republicans are together screwing the people over, the old and the young. And Austin says, Dems need to play hardball like Republicans. Obama should have called in the press and announced Ginsburg had agreed to resign. That would have been some sort of power play, Austin, wouldn't it? Look, I agree. Mike B says the only person who should be considered for the DNC chair is Stacey Abrams. She delivered a swing state, 2 senators that led to a blue wave and a first Black woman justice on the Supreme Court. Yeah, it's We can go on and on and on and on. Um, it's a losing team. It's simply a losing team. It's no question about it. Until they prove otherwise, it's a losing team, and it's just hard to play for a losing team. And that's why you see athletes just bolt into other cities the moment they get a chance to. Nobody wants to play for a losing team, especially when that losing. It's one thing. It's one thing if there's a direction, if there's a promise, and I'm gonna give you a baseball analogy. Some of you may not know it because it goes back. But prior to, or no, during the 1983 season, the New York Mets traded for Keith Hernandez, future Hall of Famer. Hernandez called his dad and said he didn't want to go to the Mets. His dad, now Hernandez at that point had already won a World Series with the St. Louis Cardinals. He had already won an MVP award. He was a batting champ. He's, in my opinion, the greatest defensive first baseman in the history of baseball, hands down. He called his dad and said, listen, this organization, the Mets have been horrible from 1977 to 1983. They were the laughing stock of baseball. And Hernandez called his dad and said, I don't want to play for a losing team. I don't want to play for this losing team. And his dad said, hey, have you seen their minor league system? They got a guy named Darryl Strawberry, who, in fact, they just called up. They got a guy named Dwight Gooden that's coming. They got some young pitchers that are coming. Talked to him, said that the future is not far off for that team. Well, they had a direction. They had folks who knew what they were doing. They had people in place. They had young people coming up. And Hernandez decided to stay on the advice of his father. And after looking at the blueprint for the New York Mets at the time, and guess what? They won the World Series a couple of years later. The Democrats do not have a blueprint. They have certain folks. You mentioned AOC, you mentioned Jasmine Crockett, Maxwell Frost down in Florida, but they are not utilizing them at all. They're not letting their ideals and ideas come across. They are stifling them and continually put these almost dying old folks in place. Nobody wants to hear that. And you see what you're up against. You're up against a whole machine, the whole MAGA machine. You're up against that. This is a buzz saw that you're up against. There was a story Greer sent me this morning down, where is it, in Kansas or whatever, the school district. They made a deal for these books, with Horton, a $500,000, $400,000 deal. Social Security curriculum. They had no Social Security, social studies curriculum. They had no books or anything. Now, the curriculum that these teachers came up with, and it was to buy the books too from Horton, and the curriculum allowed these kids critical thinking, and it was going to really teach them critical thinking skills and things to prepare them for the real world. But because Horton, back during the George Floyd era, put out a statement that said Black Lives Matter, this conservative school board voted against these books. And they don't have any books, but they had found the money in the budget for this. The teachers really wanted this. It says the teaches the wrong history because it also talks about the things that Donald Trump did in his first term that wasn't looked upon too well. And so they didn't want that. They didn't want that at all. They didn't like the information about 9/11 and January 6th in particular. They want to erase all of this stuff like it never happened, like slavery and redlining and Jim Crow. They don't want you to know that it all happened. At least those who are younger ones. They don't want that taught. But this is the Democrats for you. And this is why you have a lot of Black and brown folks, particularly Black folks, although they have supported Democrats for a long time, you have them on edge. You have them uneasy about what they're going to do in the future when it comes to Democrats. And they continue to go business as usual with the Democrats. And they continue to be left behind. They continue to do this hope and wish stuff. We talked a little bit yesterday. The majority in the House is slimming down because Trump is cherry picking from Congress for his cabinet and other positions. And that's all of them. And Democrats are hoping and wishing that he picks a couple more, and then by some crazy oversight, they get the majority. This is all they do is hope. Folks you can't pay your mortgage on hope. You can't pay for your kids' tuition on hope. And that's what the Democrats continue to sell you is hope. Keep hope alive. Jesse Jackson said that 40 years ago. I'm sure Jesse doesn't mean that about what he sees in this party today. There's no hope. Yeah, my cousin says they're scared of an AOC as well as Jasmine because they won't be able to control them. Those women call it how they see it, and they can't stand that. And that's a huge thing too. This idea of being able to control members, and that's a Nancy Pelosi specialty. Like her or not, Nancy, she's a control freak. They all are. They all are control freaks. In other news, an alarming study. I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but it has Americans tossing out their black plastic kitchen utensils, toys, and to-go packages. But they say that it's been overstated, according to researchers. They still believe that these products aren't safe to use. So if you have black kitchen utensil products, plastic, they may not be safe. But in a correction published this week, the authors of the new study from the environmental advocacy group Toxic Free Future said that while their initial number was incorrect, the calculation does not affect the overall conclusion of the paper. A study in the journal Chemisphere in December concluded that toxic brominated flame retardants and some other flame retardants might be present at dangerous levels in some products containing black recycled plastic. The items tested included black plastic utensils, such as spatulas, black plastic to-go containers, usually the bottom portion, and some toys. But the authors made a math mistake. They said they miscalculated how much of potentially toxic flame retardants a 132-pound person could safely ingest. The EPA, their reference dose of these chemicals for a 132-pound person actually works out to 420,000 nanograms a day, not the 42,000 nanograms that the researchers use, which means that the amount can be safely consumed is 10 times larger than they have presumed. But it's still, nonetheless, that high rates of exposure to some flame retardants are associated with greater risk of cancer. So these black plastic utensils you may use in your kitchen, you got to be extremely careful. In fact, it might even be wise not to use them at all. Here's something else that's a little disturbing. Homeowners across the United States are facing an escalating crisis as insurance companies abandon high-risk areas driven by climate change. I wrote about this for the Washington Informer. You can check it out there. A newly released Senate Budget Committee report reveals that non-renewal rates for home insurance have surged. It's particularly in coastal regions where wildfires are prone, and inland counties where you also have the threat of other natural disasters. Rising premiums and insurer withdrawals are creating what they experts say is a financial disaster, which is threatened. It's threatened people nationally. The report analyzed data from 23 major insurance companies representing 65% of homeowners across the country. And you have states like Florida, Louisiana, California, and Texas, where they have a lot of natural disasters. You have the renewal crisis there, but it's spreading to places like North Carolina, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Hawaii, even New York. And so, what to do, folks, if you lose or you can't get insurance? Well, you can also check with your state's Department of Insurance to see which companies are available in your area. If you've been turned down several times, you can see if your state is one of the more than 30 that offers what they call the Fair Access to Insurance Requirements, or FAIR plan. That helps high-risk homeowners to get coverage. FAIR plans are subsidized by the state and private insurers, and they collectively cover a home, which mitigates the risks that any single carrier has to take on. So there's the FAIR plan. They may be a little bit more expensive, but you can see if your state offers FAIR plans by going to, there's a FAIR, FAIR website. And if your home is at least 40 years old, you could qualify for an HO8 policy, which is intended for older houses where the cost of repair may outweigh the fair market value. HO8 insurance only covers specific perils such as fire, theft, and vandalism. And they also only pay the actual value of your possessions after depreciation. So you can do that as well. So if you're finding that you're not being renewed in your homeowner's insurance, or you having a hard time getting it, there are ways in which you there are other options. Might be a little bit more expensive, but you certainly need homeowners insurance, because mortgages will not, you won't get a mortgage if you can't get homeowners insurance. And B, if your homeowner's insurance does lapse, then your mortgage company, even if you're up to date on your mortgage, can foreclose on you. And so we have to be really, really careful with that. There is surplus line insurance, which covers properties with unique risks that traditional carriers can't or won't insure. It's very prominent in places like Texas. Typically, in that situation, a state will allow a surplus line company like Lloyd's of London or Berkshire Hathaway. Yeah, they sound expensive, right? To operate in its borders while unlicensed. Most surplus line policies are taken out by businesses, but a homeowner who has made an effort to work with a standard insurance company and received 3 to 5 rejections may qualify, according to Insurance Information Institute. Surplus line policies may have more exclusions and higher deductibles than a standard one. So you want to make sure you do that. And one last thought on that. Think about this. If your insurer goes under, any claim you may have may very well go unpaid. So you want to be very vigilant about your homeowner's insurance. And that really includes your renter's insurance too. So those who rent, who have renter's insurance, you might want to look at that as well. RNG says, hello, America. Welcome to the way we live in New Orleans. A lot of insurance companies have left New Orleans. And if you are lucky to find an insurance company, be prepared to spend thousands. Yeah, it's quite unfortunate what's going on, right? Here's something else that's going on. It's that time of year, right? What do they call them? Porch pirates and and other things. Well, there are so many other scams going on. The holiday season is a time of giving, people say, but unfortunately, some believe it is a time of stealing. The U.S. Postal Inspection Service is reminding customers the importance of avoiding trending scams while sending and receiving gifts this year. Perhaps one of the most popular scams is called And I've never heard of it like this, but it's called smishing, which in the case of holiday mail appears as fraudulent text messages indicating package tracking. Now, you may have gotten a text message on your phone saying that USPS is having difficulties with the delivery or whatever. Folks, you need to ignore those texts, delete them, mark them as spam. Undisclosed text with questionable tracking information and clickable links should be avoided at all costs. Because what happens is these scammers gain your personal information. Well, here's what to know if you never heard of smishing, and how to prevent it. The smishing is a form of phishing, which is the fraudulent practice of sending messages disguised as a reputable source to induce individuals to reveal personal and/or financial information, such as your social security number. Never, ever give out your social security number. Even social security, if you got a call from them, they're not going to ask you your number. You just don't want to do that, folks. It's too much. It's too dangerous. They take your credit and debit card numbers, your account passwords. And now smishing is done through text message. A victim of smishing typically receives a deceptive text message from a scammer trying to act as a government agency, a bank, or an institution like the U.S. Postal Service. The U.S. Postal Service does offer text message tracking of packages, but customers must register to initiate it. And I love the feature of what they have, where you can check what's coming in the mail that day or the next day, and you can see it's called informed delivery, and you could see your mail for the past week, and in some cases you could see what's coming over the next couple of days. But the U.S. Postal Service do not send tracking texts or emails without a customer first requesting them to do so. So you got to be really, really careful about that. They also, Trixie says they also send you some emails too. Yeah, it's true. RNG says his flip phone has recognized them as spam. He still got the Obama phone. Do not tease him.
Scam that we saw was somebody was taking all these cards from the store without paying for them and without loading them up, taking them home. And what they do is they heat up these envelopes to where they can open them as carefully as they can, remove the card, and actually cut the top of the card off. So I have my handy scissors here. What they did was they cut off the top that has, remember again, this is the code that gives you access to the money to the person that you give the card to. And they take the bottom half of the card, which really means nothing now, put it back into the envelope, re-glue it shut, and just like that, you have a brand new gift card that you think that you're getting for your person for Christmas. So what we're advising to do is when you guys are buying gift cards, either feel for the entire card, it should be the same size as a credit card, or with the permission of the store, when you go up to purchase these, as you're purchasing them, remove them from these folders and actually take the card and make sure that the whole card is there. So that way, when you give your present to your loved one this Christmas, they're actually getting that money and they can spend it on whatever they want, rather than somebody else spending it for you. The scam that
Yeah, and another type of scam is called brushing, where these scammers use during the holiday season. It's brushing is when a person receives a package containing items not ordered or requested by the recipient. And while the package may be addressed to the recipient, the package often doesn't include a return address. So the intention of brushing is to give the idea that the recipient is a verified buyer who has written positive reviews online. So the scammer is writing fake reviews in your name. Fake reviews help boost product sales, of course. While brushing may appear like a victimless crime, the reality is that the recipient's personal information may have been stolen. And a fake review may encourage others to purchase items that aren't worthy of such a great rating. So if you think you may be a victim of brushing, there are several steps you can take. If you have not opened a package, write in big letters, return to sender on the box, and the Postal Service will take care of it at no charge. You can also throw away the package if you like what's inside, you can keep it. It's legal to keep unsolicited merchandise. But perhaps most importantly, change your account passwords. Closely monitor accounts for unexpected activity and notify authorities. All this stuff is going on. So we told you we want to bring you stuff that you can use, even stuff like this, because it's that time of year. Gosh. Megan Thee Stallion is back in the news. He says that Tory Lanez continues to terrorize, and she used the word terrorize her from prison. So she filed a new petition asking for a restraining order that would keep Tory from harassing, attacking, or contacting her in any way. It's a 193-page filing. She was not playing. Who has time for 193 pages? That's a book. But Megan says she needs the extra layer of civil court protection because a prior criminal protective order expired not long after Tory was convicted of shooting her in both feet during an alcohol-fueled tirade on a Los Angeles street. She claims the alleged harassment campaign has continued unabated because Tory, whose real name is Daystar Peterson. Daystar is a pretty cool name, though, right? Think about it. Think about some of the names. I was always surprised when I would learn about some of these hip hop guys' names, and one of the most surprising was Ice Cube, O'Shea. What black person names their kid O'Shea? And Ice Cube is one of the hardest dudes out there, and he walked around with a name O'Shea. No wonder he's Ice Cube. But Daystar is pretty cool. It's almost like Coleman Domingo. I like Coleman Domingo's name. If I was younger and had another child, I'd probably name him Coleman Domingo. That's a pretty cool name. You could say that as like, if I had a Spanish accent, I need somebody with a Spanish accent. That probably sounds really cool coming from a genuinely Spanish accent, Coleman Domingo. But Daystar, I didn't know Tory's name was Daystar. But boy, when you start going to court, they bring out your whole name, your real name. Because even Young Thug, I mean, he's got like a regular name. I think it's like William or something. But Tory Lanez, where'd you get Tory from Daystar? Anyway, Megan says that Tory has enlisted bloggers and puppets, he calls them puppets, to post on his behalf. Even from behind bars, Tory continues to terrorize Megan due to inadequacies and loopholes in the criminal justice system, according to her filing. And she says that she's currently without any formal protection against him. They say that his attempts to re-traumatize and re-victimize Megan recognizes no limits. There's a few things with that. And first of all, folks need to leave Megan alone about this shooting. That's number one. But number two, on her part, stop reading all this stuff. You can't go online. I don't care who you are. You can't go online being famous and not expect to get dragged for one reason or another, whether it's deserved or not. So if you're going online and so it's almost like and listen, she went through so much trauma. I'm not trying to drag her and blame her in any way, but you go through this, and it's like for your own mental health, you got to stay offline. I can see her going online to promote whatever she might be doing. show, a record, an appearance. But it sounds like Megan is staying on the internet expecting folks to just show her love. You can't, you know, you got to be more like Cardi. She just goes toe to toe and she doesn't care. They drag her and she drags back. She's crazy, but she goes, hey, Cardi just takes too many things too personal though. She just goes after folks. But at least she has the I want to say the I don't want to say Megan doesn't have backbone, so don't misinterpret. But at least she has the backbone to be able to stand up and fight back and shoot back. I don't doubt that Megan is not a strong woman, but apparently, based on this 195-page file, and this stuff has really gotten to you. So you gotta give it a break. You hear celebrities all the time, I'm taking a break. First of all, I'm like, why are you announcing it? Just leave. I'm taking a break from X. I'm taking a break from social media. Just go away. And in Megan's case, she needs to have somebody doing it for her. She just can't. And those who are doing it for her, you can't report back every bad thing to her. Just how about just giving her the good stuff? Because that's what you pay for anyway. These celebrities, they don't want nobody telling. You remember that old line? I think it was in The Godfather. He said that bad news. Yeah, it was The Godfather. The Don must have bad news immediately. He likes to have bad news immediately. Just give it to him straight. But these celebrities, most celebrities, they don't want to hear it. They pay you to be a yes person. Yes, boss, no boss. That's it. And you accept that job. And yeah, some of these they get the most hideous of plastic surgeons and surgeries, and they got somebody next to them telling them they look good. That's your job. Tell them they look good. Megan, hire somebody. You got enough money by now. Megan got money. Get yourself an intern or something to do this. Angela Connolly says, when a person fears for their life, we as women have to protect our own selves. So you're 100% right. You're 100% right. But here's the thing. Um, Megan does have protection. She has security. Megan doesn't have to be on social media all the time. Listen, or at least you have the ability. Go to Blue Sky if X is not giving you Blue Sky's blowing up. If X is not giving you that type of protection, you don't need X. Blue Sky is actually blowing up. Michelle Madison says it's hard not to address haters. I know. I've been in that position. I've had to fight some big time haters too. But after a while, you just realize haters gonna hate. You cannot change haters. Trixie says her documentary, Megan's documentary that she put out about Tory or that night that dropped, is the back and forth for me. And that's the other thing. That's the other thing. The back and forth. You can't engage in that if you know you're gonna feel this way. Andrew Connolly says she did right by leaving the paper trail. Yes, Mike V. Fan base, black owned, he said. And and so Greer says also another celebrity trash news. Fans are mad that Jay-Z has claimed that he and Diddy are not friends. And that's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Why? See, here's the thing. So I saw a video yesterday of Rihanna getting Mariah Carey to sign her breast. She had nothing else for her to sign, and it was a Sharpie, and it wasn't intentional, but it was like, okay, there's nothing else here, sign, because what happened there, I'm going somewhere with this, was that ASAP had told her to get Mariah's autograph. They were at a show. And Rihanna was like, okay, give me these glasses. So she got these glasses on. And, you know, that's the beautiful thing. And I hope it continues for Rihanna and ASAP. They are in love. You love to see it too. So she goes down and she gets Mariah's attention, and Mariah comes over because she takes the glasses off so Mariah can recognize her. And Mariah comes over and she says, I'm doing this for my man. She says, could you sign your name or whatever? She's like, where am I gonna sign? And she was like, anybody got, yeah, just get a Sharpie, she says. So she had a red Sharpie. And she said, say here, sign my breast. And she signed it. But my point is this, just to go back to this idea that Jay-Z and Diddy has to be friends. Celebrities are not, they have their own lives. Celebrities don't spend every waking day or most days with other celebrities. Right? They don't really, they may hang out with them sometimes. They don't know each other. They're in the same industry. Denzel Washington once said, when he was asked in an interview, that you know, you and all your close friends, you bring them over, you know, that you co-star with. He's like, wait, time out. They're not my close friends. I work with them. I go home after the work is over. My wife and I have our neighbors and our regular friends. And that's what when I met Denzel Washington some years ago for the first time, I was really amazed that we were in New Rochelle, New York, and he was going to a reception. He was being awarded for his work with the Boys and Girls Club. And I was coming down the steps, this long, and these steps were so long. So long. I was glad I was coming down and not going up this time. But Denzel was coming up. And I was with Jermaine Jackson. And we were walking down the steps together. And Denzel was all alone. And he's walking up these steps. And we stopped midway and we had this conversation with Denzel. And he's like, yeah, we were just over, you know, shooting some hoops, blah, blah, blah. And then him and his wife had to do some shopping or whatever, grocery shopping. And you know, it was like okay, but where are the security guards? Where's the hangers on? It was just Denzel. They don't have this. Diddy and Jay-Z are in the same business. Doesn't mean that they are close friends. I mentioned Jaron earlier, his article. He's a fantastic journalist for the Griot. We don't hang out. Like Greer don't even want to hang out with me. So we don't. You just because Jay-Z and Diddy happen to have been two black billionaires that came through the music industry, that made their fortunes mostly through music and fashion, doesn't mean they're close friends. And folks want so bad, and y'all know good and well, if you watch 2 episodes of Let It Be Known, you know I am not a Jay-Z fan. There's a lot of things about Jay-Z I can go off the rails on, but one of them is not. The 99 things I can go off the rail on, and the one is not a problem, is not this whole idea that because Diddy allegedly did all the stuff he did means that Jay-Z did it. That's absurd, and doesn't mean that they hung out. They have crossed paths for sure. We have conferences, which we get to cross path with people from the Houston Forward Times, the Los Angeles Sentinel, the Sacramento Observer, Afro. But we don't. I'm not. I'm not flying out hanging out with Randy. Randy's not flying in hanging out with me. I'm sure she'd like to. No, but seriously, it just doesn't work that way, folks. You got lives. How many of you, if you got, listen, I have siblings across, well, not necessarily across the country, but in different cities. I don't see them for months. And we definitely, they're not in my crowd to hang out with. We get together as family. We'll be getting together again real soon, few weeks. But we not hanging out every day. I don't know what Monty's doing. I don't know what Vic's doing. I mean, you don't know what they're doing. So this idea of Jay-Z being guilt, and somebody, Mike V says guilt by association. And that's the other thing. Do they associate? Did they associate? No, no, Angela, we're not glorifying.
Doing a lot of things, man. Most importantly, you know, he had a recital that he has to be at the funeral. But I reached out to him, and I told him that this right here was important. Bad Boy celebrating 20 years of hits. And this is the Stickers family. You've been there with me through my ups and downs. Whenever I get in trouble, this is the one I call. It's my strategist right here. This is my brother. It's B.I.G.'s brother. Yes, sir. It's Brooklyn's own Brooklyn. So I appreciate you. He came 5,000 miles away to come here to Brooklyn to represent the B.I.G. Make some noise for home.
Yeah. So does that make them close friends? As he said, he came there to represent. That's after Biggie died. Who wouldn't be there, right? Show their love for Biggie. Yeah, I know. Greer's trolling me. That's something Austin would do as well. But we're not glorifying Angela, another woman signing another woman's breast. It was a fact. And it was just how it went down. And if you look at the video, I'm not sure that Rihanna wanted it to end up. That she just wanted to make sure that something between her and ASAP, that she had to get that autograph. And it was cute. It was cute. And if a man signed another man's chest, well, hey, that's his thing. He ain't signing my chest. Mariah's not signing my chest. I don't like Mariah. It's like, dang, who does he like? Did he call him? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Maybe I'm talking too much, Angela. I'm not sure you got to explain that one. Did he call him? Did he call Jay-Z or Jay-Z call Diddy? Is that what we're talking about here? Again, I'm pretty sure that up until recently, Jay-Z could pick up the phone and call Diddy, and Diddy could pick up the phone, call. It's just the way it is in the industry. What happens in the industry, for those who may not know, like how do they have each other on speed dial? Do all these celebrities have other celebrities on speed dial? And in some cases, you run into celebrity A, and he may have 3 or 4 numbers on speed dial. True, but what exactly happens is that they will get their publicist or their assistant to call the other person's publicist or assistant and say, hey, such and such would like to talk to such and such. I've done it for somebody before, a couple of times. In fact, I once interviewed Elton John, and that's how I was able to interview Elton John. Somebody said, hey, could you call such and such for me and say that, I'd like to speak with Elton about AZ, blah blah blah, and I was like, sure. So I did, and while I had Elton's assistant on the line, I was like, hey, by the way, he's doing this concert. I'm a journalist. This is not really my job. I'm doing it as a favor for this particular celebrity, and love to talk to Elton about his show. I know he doesn't do the interviews, blah 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 blah. And next thing you know, he's like, sure, let's hook that up for you and tell such and such Elton to give him a call too. Wound up interviewing Elton, going to Elton's show, sitting in a luxury box by myself. And he gave a fantastic concert. It was amazing. I had no interest in seeing Elton John. And he gave this tremendous concert. It was out of this world. I'm standing up singing. That's why they call it the blues. I couldn't believe it. I can't lie. I was just doing my Elton John stuff. I was just listen, candle in the wind. I started knowing all the words. Mike V says, any thoughts on Mayor Adams potentially getting a cabinet position in Trump's administration? He certainly will. I don't know about a cabinet position. He'll get one of them ambassadorships or something. The Don says, listen, I got in mind who I want in the cabinet and who I don't want in the cabinet. All right, Grizz laying down the law. She says, if Jay says they aren't friends, then that's what it is. If that's how he feels, we don't know the kind of things happening in people's life. That said, Dane might be shaking his head. And why would you claim friendship with Diddy right now? Why would you claim that? Who's claiming that? and listen, let's be real, y'all. The scuttlebutt and folks Greer worked around this guy too. Diddy was just is not a nice guy. It's just not a nice guy. And so who wants if I have the ability to be out on my own, doing my stuff, making my own money, apart from any business I may have had with Diddy, why would I want to be bothered with him? Yeah, JB saying stuff about folks when they get in trouble. That's true. That's true. He said the same thing. Yep. So, look, you want to distance yourself though from this situation. But the one thing, and we reported the other day, that whole situation with Tony Busby's now the attorney is now under investigation. There's some lawsuits there, federal lawsuits against him. And the bottom line there is that it seems like if Jay-Z has done something like Diddy, this particular accuser may not be the one. So Busby and others are going to have to dig deeper into their trick bags because this is not the one. David Youngblood says Mayor Adams is getting a pardon. Yeah, he's getting a pardon. There's no question about it. Now, you never know. The Don may let it play out for a while. He might need to see some more of Adams kowtowing. He may see groveling a little bit. You got to grovel a little bit more anyway. But yeah, it's true. See, y'all giving me everything on Jay-Z now. She says, didn't Jay get a law passed where they can't use the lyrics in the songs any longer as evidence? So Jay-Z was working on that with Jamal Bowman. Greer, who was the other lawmaker? But I know because we had Jamal Bowman on talking about that, and that came down during the Young Thug trial when Fonnie Willis wanted to use and was successful in getting the judge to allow the prosecution anyway, to use lyrics against Young Thug. Of course, we know what happened with that case. That case turned out to be the biggest travesty there is. But yeah, Jay-Z was behind that effort as well. It is not law yet, and it may or may not. Who knows? She says because people started questioning Jay's lyrics. But it's all this stuff they say was done in the dark will come out in the light, or what goes in the wash must come out. Whatever. You know how y'all black folks are coming up with all these sayings. That's why we all messed up as kids. We don't know what to think. That's a good one, Greer. What black folks say. What would black folks say? What we will say now is thanks so much for joining Let It Be Known. We will see you again tomorrow morning. Thanks a lot.
Cat Williams is looking like a fortune teller.
It's not even what you did, it's what they said you did. The damage is already done by the allegation itself.
If somebody comes to me and says, I'm accusing you of raping a 13-year-old and you want to settle, it's like, if it didn't happen, I'm not settling that, because it's like saying you admitted to doing something.
Talk settlement or settlement notices that had an amount in it, it feels like extortion because you know the damage it does if it does come out public. Once you got the package, you become a target for the attorneys.
A procedure so lawyers get paid. You got to take that to trial. And then there's the deposition. The purpose of the deposition is to get you to say something on paper and say something different in the courtroom. You impeach yourself. You know, I've been to court with homeboy and he doesn't say anything. He never responds. He has his lawyer speak. So I know that it must bother him. And they're scrutinizing every single thing, every lyric from the last 20, 30 years. That was a person that I was like, he can't do no wrong. I didn't think that they would flip on him like that. The difference between him, me, and Kanye is that he's really tied into corporate. Like, he really has the ability to be canceled. Cat Williams is looking like a fortune.
It's not even what you did, it's what they said you did. The damage is already done by the allegation itself.
If somebody comes to me